How do I know I'm an alcoholic? There's a few parts to this, which I think have contributed to my alcoholism and how I knew, really. And one of the first things was I started drinking young, and I was drinking when I was about 14. Not a lot, but more than I should have been, quite regularly. By regularly, I mean maybe twice a week even, at 14, which isn't good. I used to go around with a few rugby lads who were a bit older than me and have a few pints weekend. Nobody knew. At a local pub called the Red Bull, which isn't there anymore, in a little town in Morpeth. I was surrounded by pubs. In a small market town in Northumberland, there must have been about 30 pubs. And then I graduated from there into my dad's homebrew lager, which was pretty strong. And that became quite a regular thing. I played in the band when I was about 15, 16, and some of the guys used to come down and practice weekends because we were going to be the next U2. And we used to get in this homebrew lager, you see, especially when my parents were away. And the next thing was I felt I had quite a high tolerance because they would have a few of these beers and they started to feel the effects. I could tell they were walking not particularly well and, you know, a bit more giggly than I was. I used to watch them leave and they used to be all over the place, and I thought, well, I'm ready for another drink. And I used to be able to go out then a little bit late and have a couple of drinks, 15, 16-year-old, you know, which is far too young to be drinking the amount that I was drinking. But I was still fit, it's just a young lad, you know. And then I did an engineering course, and I was drinking a bit after the course, work, and drinking a bit at the place I used to work at with older guys. And some of the same age, but my tolerance seemed to be quite high, and it's a bit of a thing in this country, isn't it? You know, can you handle your drink? I would always handle my drink. Well, I thought I could when I was young. And then I joined the police service after that, and I was pretty much a seasoned drinker by then, even by the age of 21. But I joined a lot of guys who were a bit older than me, and met a lot of guys who were older, had more service than me in the job, you know. And I'd regularly drink as much as them, if not more. And they were quite surprised, you know, how does this skinny young lad drink us under the table? I mean, these are guys in the 30s, some of them early 30s, big, heavy, hard drinking coppers, you know, from central London, who had been around the block, you know what I'm saying. Now I was just a young lad, 21, 22, thinking, wow, I love it here. All these bars and all the social life that's sort of thing. That was something else. I never thought I was slipping into alcoholism because I thought it was normal. But looking back and trying to sort of trace back when I slipped into it, I think one of the main points for all of us, anybody who's watching this and maybe thinking they've got an issue, is I don't tend to believe people who say I never get a hangover, because I used to get hangovers, even when I was a teenager. What do I call that? It's a bit of a thick head, a bit of a cloudy head, a bit of a haze. Maybe I'd got to sleep all right, because alcohol is a bit of a sleeping pill in a way, isn't it? You drift off quite relaxed, quite happy, be awake in the middle of the night a few times in the balloon and all that sort of thing, so you don't sleep properly. And when I was drinking, even when I was young, I was tired most of the time. So I kept drinking, because I thought it was normal. I enjoyed it. It's a big part of my life, as it's a part of many people's lives. And one of the important parts of it, when I look back and actually define when I slipped from being a heavy drinker to going towards alcoholism, or alcohol use disorder, they tend to call it now, is when hangovers turned into withdrawal. There's a massive difference between a hangover and withdrawal. And we need to identify what happens then. Because from withdrawal, you get a lot more symptoms. You'll feel nauseous. You may have the shakes. Now, at this point, you've got to really put the brakes on it and stop drinking. Because, or at least cut down until you get yourself settled. Because when your hangovers turn to withdrawal, you've got physical symptoms there. And that's dangerous. And what happens, or what happens to a lot of people, happened to me, was the withdrawals become so bad. What you think of hangovers are now withdrawals. So bad that you tend to have another drink. And when you have another drink, to combat these feelings of withdrawal and the fear of withdrawal, and the fact you think you're going to faint, you feel terrible, you can't cope, you have negative feelings. When you start to do that, maybe have the hair of the dog, or maybe have a sneaky drink at work, that's really dangerous. Because then you're drinking alcohol to get over the problems that you've already got. Another thing is drinking alone. I didn't drink alone a lot, but I know a lot of people do. That's another very big warning sign when you're drinking alone, because you're bored or you feel the need to drink to get you through the day, all that sort of thing. And as I said, there's no set time limit. But another major factor is when you realise, probably you're drinking too much, and other people realise it too, and you've got this denial, but you still keep drinking. You know, there's no set time limit on this as to when you cross over. But you tend to use alcohol as a bit of a medicine. So the alcohol isn't the problem, it's everything else becomes the problem. And alcohol is your medicine. But then alcohol becomes a bigger problem than the problem you drank for, if that makes sense. So you may have a bit of debt, for instance, or a bit of marriage problem. So you drink to try and mask that, try and forget about that issue, or try and get through the day. But as time goes on, the marriage problem, the finance problem, the job problem, whatever it is, will be much less than the alcohol problem, because the alcohol will take over and start to control you. And then you'd be at the point of no return, where I was. There's a lot of factors in here. The drinking alone, the tolerance. There's a direct correlation between age, when you start drinking, and alcohol use disorder. 100%. All the medical people will tell you that. You're drinking alone, and obviously there's this point where you're in denial. But the most, if you take something away from this video, is when your hangovers start to get worse and you feel you're withdrawing, and then you start to drink, or you feel you need a drink to get through the day, or to feel better, that's the line I think you cross into becoming a full-blown addict or in active addiction to alcohol. Okay, there's a few factors there. As I said, I'm not going to summarise them again, but listen to the video again and just pick up on these things. But once you start to drink, have hair of the dog, or maybe top up drink to feel a little bit better, then you're in trouble. And you really have to take action then. So get in touch, do one-to-one support, speak to the subscribers in here. There's a lot of expertise here. Maybe see the doctor if you've got serious problems and you don't want to stop suddenly, because it's dangerous to stop suddenly. You've got to try and taper off and do something about it. And keep in touch. And as always, you know, good luck with your sobriety. I'll help you with it if you want me to. There's always a number I'll post on the descriptions. If you benefit from the channel, then please subscribe. And if you want me to cover any subjects, then give me a shout and I'll do that for you. But beware of what's happening to yourself, your body, how your mind is, your anxiety levels and all this sort of thing. And you'll have a hint. You'll know when you drink too much. And other people will have already told you about it. And you've got to keep it limited, because it kills far too many people across the world. People die every day. It's not just liver disease. It's kidney problems, pancreatitis, heart issues and all this sort of thing. And it's linked to a lot of cancers as well. It's poisonous, it's dangerous, and it kills far too many, far too young. Speak soon.